Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great day today. Welcome back to another video for the Christmas in July series. Kind of hoping this will help you get a head start on your holiday cards. It's certainly helping me. So hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Now this can be done in any type. Basically what I'm going to be doing is creating a shaker card with vellum, but I have this really cute printed vellum, and so what I'm going to show you is coloring on it, because it is semi-opaque. Vellum is not like acetate, right, which is what we typically would use for a shaker card, so it's perfectly see-through. You can still see through vellum, but it's kind of more opaque, so you're not going to see everything through it. But you can still create a really fun shaker card using vellum. So I had this was part of a 12 by 12 paper pad set that I had. So I just cut this down into some strips, not strips. I cut it down to 4 inches. Well, it would technically be 4 by 12, and then I'm cutting it down, yeah, so that I can make a panel. And here's what I've done is, so you can see on this side, it's a little bit darker, and then when you turn it over, it's a little more faint on this side. I'm not sure how well that's going to come through. Let me see if I try putting some more vellum behind it. So it's not quite as dark on that side as it is on this side. So this is the front printed side. But I turned it over and colored it from the back using alcohol markers. It's really key that you use alcohol markers because vellum is non-porous. Same thing with acetate. You could also do this similar technique with acetate as well. But they are not porous, so you can't use like just a regular felt tip marker or Crayola or Tombow or watercolor marker, dye-based marker. You have to use a permanent marker. So Sharpies would work. If you have Copics, if you have, I have these Ohuhus, if you have the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blends, anything that is an alcohol-based or permanent-based marker will create a panel like this. Okay. So I'm going to show you that just really quickly, utilizing a few colors here. Not going to do a super fine color job on it, because I also want to show you another technique if you don't have any printed vellum like this. So I have a few greens here that I pulled out, BG7, BG1, BG2, and I'm just going to add in a little bit of color. So I'm just using the fine point. And I'm coming in and I'm doing my best to kind of stay within the lines. It's not the end of the world if I don't. But just kind of picking the pattern and kind of going with that. So I'll just do, I'm not going to color the whole thing. I'm just going to show you a little bit about just on the technique really, so that we can move on to the other one and then creating the shaker cards as well. So basically this is coloring 101, whatever. I have some other videos on coloring. I'm just going in and adding some detail here. You can come in and catch the edges. However you decide that you want to color these, or, add the color to whatever your image is. Obviously, it doesn't have to be Christmas trees and snowmen and whatnot. So that's color number 1. That was BG2. So that was my darkest of the 3 tones. My next one is going to be BG1. And now I'm going to come in and just add an extra little layer of color on top, slightly lighter tone, catching some of the highlights. Now, obviously, this is a very tight, small image, but you can do a larger image, as I'm going to show you in the next example, because not everybody might not have some printed vellum such as this, right? So we'll show you how to create that, because you might have some stamps at home. And vellum is a great staple supply to have because you can use it for your die cuts. I use vellum a lot as the shadow under a sentiment. So I'll have like a thicker sentiment and then cut out the shadow part in Velum, because then I can put it on top of my card and have my card front show through. So it becomes then like a highlight of my um, because I still want, if I put a lot of work and there's a lot of detail in my background, like if I did some watercoloring or something like that, I might want to have more of my background showing through. Sometimes I don't want that, so I'm happy with just a white or a metallic shadow or something like that. White or black, who knows, depending on what the card is calling for. But yeah. So, but vellum is very handy for that. The nice thing too, when you're using vellum or when you're using alcohol markers too, now you don't have to be like perfect on this, but you can come in, bring in your colorless blender, which has actually got like a clear alcohol in it, or almost like just rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. Clean off the tip there a little bit, and it will lift if you colored outside the lines, such as I did. Even though you don't mean to, it doesn't need to be perfect, but this will allow you to kind of clean it up just a bit, which is handy. And then clean off the tip. And I did get a little bit on my surface here, so use some alcohol, pick that up. And so this is what it looks like on the front side. So you can see where there's kind of the streaks and the bit of shine. Now, and I colored this on the back side because I want to be able to turn it over and just have the saturation showing through. I don't want that. Now, this would not be the end of the world. It is a permanent marker if I was to put this down on top, but I don't necessarily want somebody touching this because it could, I mean, it should be dry enough. It's not a problem, but it could smudge and things like that. So we want this to be the top. So whoever is the recipient of our card doesn't have to worry about that. Okay. So this is what it started out with, like this. Okay? And I pre-colored this one so that we could move on with the technique. Okay, colored this one, but you can still see on this side, there's still those bits of the shininess of where I was coloring from. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna put this to the side and I'm gonna build my shaker card with this one right away here, just so that you can see what I'm going to be doing. So off screen, what I've done is I cut a frame, okay, that I'm going to put around the edge so that I can pop up. Now, again, because I'm going to need to hide my vellum, right? I'm going to need to hide my, where I'm popping up my sentiment, etc. here. Or where I'm going to put my foam tape, because again, like I told you, this is see-through, right? So I don't want to be putting my foam tape or the edges that of the things that I need to lift. I don't want to be putting those up on here or in the middle where I can't see it. So I needed to create something that is going to give me a space where I can stick this down. But the other thing that I wanted to do is I was thinking it would be really neat if I had, so I've cut out some Happy Holidays sentiments here. These are really nice. So it's got this really lovely line through it. I have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Season's Greetings, fa la la, and Noel came in the sentiment in the in the set. And I was thinking that this would be kind of fun to almost set this behind like this and then have this be the sentiment. So I'm going to stick this down to my frame first before I stick this down. So let's get a little bit of adhesive here. And we're going to stick it on. And I'm going to stick this down. Oh, nope, coming up. That's a little higher than I intended, but there we go. What was that? Now this doesn't have to be perfect. Move over. What are you doing here? There we go. Boy, I totally missed that. That's hilarious. All right. Missed this edge and I'm managing to get adhesive all over my shiny mirrored cardstock here. All right. Obviously, if you're going to do this, handy tip, glue one side down and have it hold it in place. So I'm going to use some reverse tweezers here. And then go ahead and do this part on this side. That will work a little easier for you. Well, it'll work a little bit easier for me. Gives me an area to shoot for and to hold. Okay, let's release that one. And move to this side now. I think I've got it here. All right. Okay, that's kind of holding in place there, so that's good. So we're gonna do that. Now I'm gonna snip this extra line off because I don't need it. And I'll clean up that adhesive after I'm done here. This is a little more fiddly than I thought it would be. Well laid plans. What are you going to do there, right? Okay, so that is now going to be garbage. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to frame out my vellum here. I'm going to stick it down to the back of my glue in here. Just a minute. The back of my card front. Okay, because that's what this is here. So to do that, I am going to add a bead of glue all the way around. Just a little bit of adhesive. I'm also going to catch just a couple of places on my sentiment here, just because I didn't do, it's just holding on to the edges very, very lightly, right? It's only got these two tiny uh, edges that are holding to the side. So I'm just going to add a little bit onto there. Now, which is the side that has the sticky on it? There we go, that side there. So now what I want to do is I'm just going to pop this into the edge here, onto the corner. And I'm going to smooth it into place. And because I'm using liquid adhesive, I can jimmy it into place just a bit. And I'm going to smooth out this edge here and smooth out that side there. Okay, so theoretically, I have given myself a pretty decent handoff around the edge here. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to let that dry, but I'm going to pull out my trimmer here because I do need to trim this edge off. So I'm going to pull in my guillotine trimmer and I'm going to get the edges here. Nope, I'm catching that side. So that's not going to work either. Well, I mean, it worked. Not the best. So let's pull out some scissors and do what I probably should have done the first time and just go along the edge from the back, trimming that out. And let's see there we go. Okay, it's none the worse the wear. Looks good. I am going to have to come in and kind of buff off some of this adhesive. So I have this is an adhesive remover eraser. And all it does is it comes through once your adhesive, like your liquid adhesive is dry, you just kind of come through, give it a bit of a wipe, very gently. I don't want to scrape anything off. Give it a little bit of a wipe here, a bit of a wipe here. And I think I had another edge right there. There we go. Okay. Like it never happened with all of the adhesive. So if you're clumsy and stick it down in places you didn't mean to, much like I just did, there you go. Not so bad. Okay, so now what I want to do is now I'm going to build up. So you can see here that I've given myself a really nice frame where I can build up using foam tape. Okay, so I am going to cheat because, well, not cheat. I'm just going to use my foam strips that I have here. And very important that you want to make sure that it's closed entirely, edge to edge, right? That's going to be the important thing. And because we don't want any of our shaker bits. This is the most important thing when you're doing a shaker card, is that when you're creating the well or the space for it to come through and you're doing these edges here, you want to make sure that your foam tape is butted up right against each other because you don't want your shaker bits coming out. That's the important part about when you're creating shaker cards. All right, so now this one coming right up to this edge here. And we're going to there. And butting up right here. There. Touching down there. And we will do one more here. Edge to edge. Now, I often only do one layer for these guys, and I tend to overstuff my what do you call it? My shaker bits. But I also don't want this to be too high because as you can see, like it's opaque. So I want to be able to see. So I'm going to put this on a white card base because number one, I want my coloring to pop. So it kind of looks a bit like stained glass. So you can see that. But I also want my shaker bits that I'm going to put in here to show off of like from behind. So they need to be on white. If I did another color, I might not be able to see my colors or the shaker bits in there. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice not adding as many shaker bits as I usually do so that I'm just going to keep it at one layer of foam tape. Now, if you like to have a lot in your shaker card, is totally up to you. That is a preference. As you've all seen, I typically do put a ton of shaker bits in my shaker cards. I'm going to try not to do so much this time. Okay. And I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to put it right onto my card here. Instead of trying to put it in here and then put my card face down instead. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm just using some really light sequins. It's like a metallic, they're kind of almost like hexagons, I guess is what I would say, this shape. And I think I just got these from the dollar store. They had some great ones, and I was using them. They're almost like a sequin, almost like an ornament filler. Is I think like a really just a chunky glitter is kind of what I would say this is. And I just thought it would make a really nice because it's really flat as well. So it'd be really great on a flat shaker card as well. Okay, so now I'm just going to pull. I'm going to peel off my release paper on my foam strips here. So obviously the longest part about this particular card is the coloring. And for me was the die cutting actually. And but the rest of it came together quite fast, mostly just because I had a print on this. Now, if you don't have a print, I'll show you like if you don't have printed vellum, I'll show you how to do that in the next card, but we'll get this one done here. Okay, I released everything on the edges I have. Okay, so now what this allows me to do is I can hover over top to kind of get my card front in the right space here before I go and stick it down. There we go. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger and kind of burnish my foam tape in place here so that it has a good adherence to the rest of my card. So you can kind of see I've got this kind of funny looking white red spot in there. Ooh, ooh, something's not burnished down. Uh-oh. There we go. Let's try that again. It's very thin, obviously. How did that happen? Uh-oh. Oh, it's still coming out. What did I manage to not stick down? Oh, shoot. I didn't remove that foam tape. That would explain. Okay, yeah, if you're going to do that, make sure you remove all of the foam tape. Hello. Okay. But fortunately enough, could still get it in there. I could have sworn I touched all of the pieces, but obviously I did not. Okay, so we're gonna touch that down, and now I'm gonna have to clean up all of that little glitter there. But so you can see down here, all of my shaker bits have fallen down, but it is still wonderfully shaky. It's not popping out the front, so that's good, and it's not too bulky either. So it gives just the nice little bit of detail behind, but still kind of fun. So you can kind of play with it, right? Okay, that was card number one. So let's pull these guys here because that's going to be in the way. Okay, second one that I'm going to show you how to do is you can heat emboss, stamp and heat emboss on vellum. Okay, this is what it looks like. Okay. So I'm taking a large image. So for example, that's why I have this stamp set out. I'm using this large poinsettia stamp because it gives me a large focal image. But you could use whatever you want. You could do some different leaves. Let's say you were doing this for a birthday card. You could do like a really nice present or yeah, what have you got? Those kind of things. You could do a star on the front of it. A different kind of scene. You would probably want to have some space, something that's got some nice line work that you can emboss kind of thing. But yeah, so I'm going to show you how to do this. So when you are embossing on acetate or on vellum, you want to remember this is kind of a plastic product. So it's going to, number one, it's going to have a lot of, it's going to keep a lot of your oils. It's going to have a lot of static electricity. So you definitely want to make sure that you are utilizing your anti-static. Okay. So all I did was I positioned this stamp. So you can see this is the stamp here, and I figured out how much space I needed on my card. I know I want it kind of coming in from the outside kind of thing. So that's basically what I did. So I've already stamped it. That's how I did that one. And I wanted to test and make sure that it would work. And I wanted it to be dry and not have to go through all of the coloring with you guys so that I could complete the card. Okay. So that's basically what I did. I used this grid. I got this from Simon Says Stamp. They are super inexpensive. I think it cost me $2 or $3. I really recommend it because you can put your dirty stamps on it and put your paper down. You can measure. It's got a grid map on it so that you can tell, is my sentiment straight, etc., etc. Very, very handy little tool for not a lot of pesos, which is a nice thing, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my anti-static powder, and I have this is called like a rabbit tool, I think. And anti-static powder is basically, I think it's kind of like it's a mixture of talc and kind of like a cornstarch. Um, but I want to make sure that that is all over my paper or my piece of vellum here. This has been cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I will trim it down so that it will go onto my onto a card front, but it'll fit underneath my under my frame and whatever, same as the last one. But I've put this into my stamping platform, and I am going to put my magnets down in case, because I'm probably going to try and stamp this twice, because the first stamp is going to lift up the it's going to lift some of that embossing powder. The second one will push down the like will stamp is basically what I'm trying to say. We'll have a good impression of the stamp. Okay, so now what I'm going to take is my my Versamark, which is my watermark stamp pad or my clear embossing ink. So whatever you have, could be Michael's, could be, you just basically want whatever your clear embossing ink is. Maybe it's a Wow pad, Simon Says Stamp has one, everybody has them. So whichever one you use, make sure it's nice and juicy. You know, that it's well inked, not too dry. If it's dry, stamp it like 4 or 5 times. Okay. Bring my little my air hockey puck here, which helps me get a nice even pressure. And I'm lifting, and you can see here, so you can see how the clear ink has stamped well onto my vellum. So that's good. But like I said, sometimes the first pickup or the first stamp image, once we've done this, it's still sitting in the corner. So I want to make sure it's in the same area. Sometimes the first pickup is just, it may not hold my embossing powder well because it has lifted my anti-static powder. Okay. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to stamp again. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm walking my fingers all over so that it is catching all of the edges. Now, you don't want to do chest compressions and do too hard because I don't want to blow out the lines. I want to keep the nice line work. Okay, so I'm just going to put this to the side. And you can see we've gotten a really nice impression. So even on the vellum, which is sort of see-through, we have a pretty good, it's a good enough impression that you can see. So I'm pulling out my silver embossing powder. For those of you who know, I don't have a ton of embossing powders. Um, I mostly use what's the word that I'm looking for? Just a minute. It's right there on the tip of my tongue. Uh, Pigment-based inks. That's it. So I have a really great, I have the VersaFine Clair. I have the full line of the VersaFine Clair pigment inks, and I can use those to stamp in whatever color I want and then just put clear embossing powder over it. So it gives me the options of having the colors, everything matches tone on tone then, and I don't have to invest in a ton of colored inks. So I have clear, detailed embossing powder. But the other ones that I have invested in that are basics is gold and silver, because you always want those at Christmas time. And then I also have a white. Other than that, those are the four embossing powders that I have, basically. Anything else, I can kind of make. And there's other things that's how I utilize more of my supplies. So basically, I'm just taking my silver now, and kind of moving the powder over the top of my image and giving it a pretty good tap off, because again, this is kind of a plasticky formulation, vellum. And it does have some pretty decent stick to it, or static, even with the anti-static. So now I'm just going to come in, I'm bringing in an angled paintbrush just to pull off a few of the pieces and just kind of sweeping the edges to make sure that I've gotten a pretty decent, now this did a pretty good job. I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. This line here is just a little thick. Sometimes you get, because I don't use my embossing powder a ton. That's another thing too, is that I don't want to invest a ton of money in supplies that I don't utilize all the time. So I want to utilize what I already have as much as possible. And so because I knew that I wanted good quality inks and the pigment inks that are really great I get really good crisp images. There's no point for me to continue to, I used to buy a bunch of the colored embossing inks, but I don't need to do that anymore because I have a different supply that covers that for me. But because of that, I do also sometimes tend to get a little bit of fuzz in my embossing powder. Okay. All right, there we go. So that's a pretty good image here that I've managed to get here. So I'm just gonna cover this before I go and stick my finger in it. Now, the really important thing when you are utilizing embossing on either acetate or vellum, you need to make sure, number one, that your heat tool is very, very warm, very warm. You want to pre-warm it up. Whether you're using the barrel kind or you're using the kind that I'm using, which is the Heat It tool by Ranger. Looks like a hair dryer, but it is not a hair dryer. This gets super hot. You will fry your hair if you ever try to do that. Burn your face, burn your fingers. But you want it well heated because you need to keep it moving. So it needs to be really quick and keep it moving and heating up the surface because this will melt. So that's the trick. So I've had this going for probably about 30 seconds now. And I'm just going to start by kind of giving an overall warming of the back on this. And then I'm going to start shooting it. And you can see I kind of caught those edges already. So when I'm watching, moving the hot air around. And as soon as I start to see it melt, I'm moving on so that I'm not burning anything or warping or melting my plastic. I don't want to do that. And I am using this tweezer to kind of shift it around, shift the paper around, and keeping my fingers away from it because that's not fun. I don't need to burn myself. Been there, done that. And just the last little bit here. Catch those edges. And as soon as it goes from, oops, see, there's another spot there. Whoop, whoop, get in the center. As soon as it goes from kind of that powdery, dull look to shiny, it's done. It has melted. And I got all of the images there. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to put that here, hang that back up. And we have a beautiful poinsettia image here. Okay. So this is now, so the powder has now melted into this beautiful shiny silver. Okay. And I do still have some embossing powder off of the edge here, but that's okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly, and it's dry, so now I can work on it. Okay. So now I'm going to do some quick coloring. I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do this too much. I just want to show you what this looks like and how to kind of go about this. So I'm going to start with my darkest color. So this is a set of reds. So I'm using R8, R2, and R3. And I am going to pick and choose like my areas to highlight. Just in the same. So if you follow any coloring videos, I have some other coloring videos on my channel here. Picking the light sources, adding in some flicks and depth and dimension. That's all you want to do. Let's see here. So this is another one that's in below, in behind. Like that. Another dark area. And I'm going to pull out this rib here. And that follows through to there. This is another rib here. Like so. And so I'm going to add a little bit tone and depth there. Like that. And another one, a bit of tone and depth there. Get a little bit more here. Okay, and then we've got another one of the poinsettia. I don't know that Ayana Pet said it. Maybe someone can correct me on this, but I don't know because the poinsettia, the red points of the poinsettia, they almost look like leaves, and then they also have like the green leaves kind of thing. So I don't know what you call the red part of the poinsettia. I don't, is it petal? Is it a, who knows? I don't know, but some, maybe somebody out there knows. Please let us know if you know. That would be great. So now I'm just kind of adding the highlight in these areas. Well, actually, truthfully, what I'm doing is I'm outlining my focals, my images here, but I'm also adding in kind of the shading, the toning. So I'm adding in this darker tone in the red. This is my darkest tone. Yes. And that's going to add in some depth and dimension. So, and the really nice thing on these pens, now the pens that I'm using, so again, we're using permanent markers. So it needs to be, or sorry, permanent ink. So it needs to be something that will dry, which is typically going to be something that is solvent based. So Sharpies would work with this very, very nicely if you have Sharpies and you don't have things like Copics or alcohol specific markers. But a Sharpie will work for this. Or I think Bic pens, I think, are the same. Let me see. Yeah. Copics, Spectrum Noirs. Yeah. Any, depending on what your craft supply is that you like to use, all of those options will work. in this, but again, it needs to be something that will dry. So that's why it has to have the solvent in it, right? The alcohol base to it, because it will dry quite quickly versus any dye-based markers, which are white-based, right? Like or sorry, white, water-based. So that's not necessarily going to work. I was gonna try it, but I was thinking that let me see here. Okay, and sometimes you're going to want to flip over. So here's where we're looking at so far. So you can see how bold that color is coming through nicely, but we're still going to have this really nice silver outline, right? Um, on vellum, it may dry if you tried a water-based marker, like a dye-based marker. It might on vellum, but it will take a long time to dry because it will actually have to absorb into the paper. There is some uh what I say? It's not texture, but vellum is a different entity kind of thing than acetate. Acetate is just strictly plastic. But vellum is plastic mixed with something else. I don't know for sure what it is. It's interesting because when you buy it, it actually has like a GSM similar to when you're buying purchasing cardstock and stuff like that. But it is still a plastic type product. So it may dry, but I didn't try it. If you would like to experiment, again, please give it a go and then let us know how it goes. That would be kind of fun to find out. So in a really good, what's nice about this is it is see-through enough that you can kind of see what you're doing, following like your image, which is nice. Follow the image, but also if you're not sure, because again, you're looking at the reverse image of it, maybe you're not for sure, oh, is that the part that I meant to color? Maybe I didn't mean to color that. Maybe that's supposed to be something different, right? So you can always, the nice thing is turn it over and check and see, hey, check my math there. Is that what I wanted to be doing? And okay, so that's all of the dark red. So I've done the areas that I want to do. I'm going to just quickly move on to the second one, which is going to be R2. All right, so then I'm just going to come in and I'm going to follow some of the shadow areas that I've done, deepening that tone. So going from the darker to the mid-tone here. This is going to be my mid-tone value. And pretty good there. Okay. Uh-oh, I have a sneeze coming. Sorry, guys. Oh, pardon me. Um, Yeah. How are you guys coming along with your holiday cards? Do you make holiday cards? Is this something that you have to do, not have to, but choose to do every year? Or are you just kind of maybe thinking about getting into it? What does that look like? Or are you one of the people who maybe you're fortunate you don't have a ton that you have to make. That's not the worst place to be. That's not me, unfortunately, but well, unfortunately, I choose to make a lot of cards. So you can see here, because I was coloring on the edge, I did catch the side and my marker, because this is it's not my marker, my ink actually popped around to the front side of my card. So I don't want that, because you can see here on the front, see where this really almost looks like it's a little bit darker, looks like a bit of blood. So what I want to do is I'm going to come in here with um, my colorless blender and just pop that little bit of red off. But I do want to be very careful that I'm not getting too close to my embossing, because it will lift and start to smudge, or sorry, it will start to reactivate or disintegrate the plastic of your embossing. So you want to watch that. Here, test mode. So while I'm doing this and quickly trying to color, and boy, I get focused and then I forget that I'm actually still supposed to be talking to you guys. By all means, feel free if you don't want to have to watch the long form of the video, go ahead and just fast forward until I'm doing something interesting that is not just simply filling in color. But in the meantime, for those of you that are that do kind of watch the whole thing and the long form, whatever, yeah, is there things that, like maybe some techniques that you would like to know more about or are unsure of, or a product that is not necessarily new, but well, or new, could be new, or that you're unsure of? Okay. I'd be happy to look into it, see what I can figure out on that. Also, are you interested in learning how to utilize the supplies that you have more and more? Doing more cards of what do you have in stock, or like figuring out how to utilize, well, yes, your tools, but also so that you're not having to purchase more, things like that. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next color, R3. And so this is the area that I finished. I kind of started here, so I'm giving it a moment or two to dry as I'm moving into the next color. Doesn't have to be perfectly dry, because again, it is alcohol based, so it is drying quite quickly, which is the nice thing. That's what we want. We need it to dry quite quickly. And as I'm at the edge here, I'm kind of doing a bit more of a flick so that I'm not wrapping that color around the edge. I want, trying to keep it nice and crisp at the edge here. Okay. And I'm just catching all of the places that I haven't colored yet with my deeper tones in the red. And because this is the lightest shade, I can actually move it along the other tones here. And that does help kind of blend it in a little bit as well. That's typically that would be part of coloring with alcohol markers 101, but on the vellum, you want the blending to come through, but you don't need to do as much blending as you would as if this was in like a regular cardstock or regular coloring kind of thing. Right. Okay. So this is how deep and intense it looks like from this side, actually, just because I want to pop in the yellows while I'm here. So, and then for the yellow, for the center of the poinsettia, the little seeds, or it's not really the stamen, but yeah, whatever that center part is called. I don't know what it's called. Just got a little bit of red on there. There we go. Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit of yellow into there. So this is what it looks like from the back side. So it's really deep and intense, but you can see again the streaks of the color, like the marker where it went down. But from this side, now we get this beautiful image that is outlined in the silver. So it's got that little bit of oomph to it as well. Okay. So this is what this looks like once it's been colored. Sorry, that's not what it looks like. That's the back side. That's with the green for the leaves, and that's the front. So we still get, so because it's on vellum, it is going to be slightly muted. So it's not going to be as bright, right? That would be full on saturation color. This is behind the vellum, so it's slightly opaque. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay, so now I need to trim this down because it is still, yep, 4¼ by 5½. So I am going to take down, I think I'm going to take it down on this side to a 4. Yep, do that. 4 by, should be 5¼ Let's check that out. Now, because I knew that I was going to be doing silver embossing powder, what I did is I went and did the same thing. I pre-cut out a frame, and basically I just used my nesting dies and just basically to get a nice frame, tape them together with the proper distance on them. And so this is 4 by 4 inches. The outside one is 4 inches by 5 1/4, which is, basically a 1/4 inch down from a standard A2 size. Okay. So theoretically, this should fit. Looks like there's a skudge just on the outside here, but I will do the same as I did on the other one. But I really love how that silver is being highlighted with the silver. And again, because we're doing the shaker, we don't want to have to add too much more in there. But I do want to add my sentiment in the same way. So I'm thinking, so this Merry Christmas is quite nice down there. But another one, I think the season's greetings could be really lovely, which would be really nice, I think, with the poinsettia. So, and in the same way, I don't want this sticking out on the outside. I want this line going underneath. So I'll save this for another day. Oh, wait a minute. You could also do, this was the other option that I did. So I did happy holidays with season's greetings. So I wanted to check because I wasn't sure which one I was going to like. Because I could do it in green as well, green foil, which is kind of nice. But I think because I did the silver and the silver frame, I think that this silver will be what I think will be the nicest. So we're going to do that. So in order to correct what happened last time, I'm going to add a squidgy of glue right there. Or adhesive, whatever you want to call it. And I am going to get that right around this area here. I'm going to make sure that I've got enough space. Like this is right there. Everything is touching enough. Which, oh, for fudge sakes. Woo-doo. Okay, so let's try that again. And paper. It's just so finicky some days, I tell you. Okay, so I've got that there. Hold it. Trimmed my nails the other day, and so now they don't hold much of anything, which is awesome. But I was doing all of these videos, I'm actually filming, pre-recording. So it's actually this one I'm doing in May. So I just actually finished putting in my, it was actually our May long weekend, Victoria Day long weekend. Happy 2/4 Canada, which I think in the States is Memorial Day weekend, but quote, I could be wrong. I don't know that for sure. But yeah, so I had to do a bunch of gardening this weekend, which, if you live in Alberta, might have been a mistake actually, 'cause we typically still see snow before the end of the month here. So I'm now, which I don't normally like to do, but I am in the position of having to cover my plants at night, which I don't typically like to do. But we had a phenomenal sale. And if you know me, I do like a good deal. So yeah, I was able to pick up some of my annuals and whatever at very good prices, which was, some days. Did it save me? I don't know. Anyway, anybody else like that? But yes, anyway, to say it was kind of crazy, but I was doing some planting and that tends to ratchet up my nails a little bit. So sometimes make them stronger, but in the meantime, it makes it a little bit more complicated sometimes. So there we go. Well, I just noticed that that's kind of popped off the edge there. There we go. Okay, that should have held long enough. There we go. Okay, good. And I'm going to give this a quick trim. This side here. So I'm just noticing now that it is making it just somewhat difficult for my nails. Sometimes the things that I utilize my nails when I'm crafting to hold with, it's not going well. All right, so I've managed to stick that down. I did manage to get a good squidgy there. Okay. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing as I had done previously, and we're going to put down a bead of adhesive all along the edge here. Like so, and then I'm also going to, as I said, I'm going to hit a couple of the spots on my die because it's only holding on very, very gently, just on the edges. So I do want to have a little bit more. just to hold it in place, just in case, because yeah, it feels like it's going to need it. Okay, now I'm going to pull my, that's not the side that needs to be forward. This is the side that needs to be forward. And which side do I want to go up? Yeah, I'm going to go this side up, actually. Yeah, have that right at the edge there. Pick this up. Pick it up. There we go. And I'm going to buff that into place, or not buff, burnish this into place. You're just using my thumb and kind of pulling that down like this. So that I get really good adhesion to my little frame. All right. Now I am going to quickly pull out my glue, my adhesive eraser. Just kind of pop that off there. We want it to be nice and shiny. Yeah, got a little bit more squidged out right there. Pretty good. All right, now let's pull out my scissors because I did overshoot it a little bit. So, which is all right. We can come in with our scissors just along the edge, and I'm just going to kind of cut right underneath, right along the edge here. Go, just like that. And somehow I also managed to miss at the bottom here, so that's awesome. So I'm just going to pull my scissors in here and just kind of pop it a little bit behind the frame. This is why it's also a really good idea. Like, it's nice to be able to have this kind of frame then, because I can make these corrections and not like, now, if I had stuck this right down to my card, would it be the end of the world? No, it would not. I would work with it and just be like, okay, it's vellum. Most people probably won't even see it on white, but this way I can do this and I have a nice clean edge right around the frame. See, nice clean edge right around the frame. So that's lovely. I'm very happy with that. Okay, so now in the same realm as what I did previously, although this time I'm hoping I will for sure remove all of my release paper. um, Now I'm going to stick down my foam tape. Edge to edge. Go up one, the side, like so. And I'm going to go up the side here. Like so. So I had this guy. Is that one? Okie dokie. And coming in at the edge here. In right at the center. And I think I'm going to cut that right. Put that right in there. Okay. Just a squidgy left. All right. Okay. So now somebody remind me when I go to pull this off that I have a couple extra pieces in there, right? Okay. Now my plan is I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to pull out my shaker bits here. And interestingly enough, again, these are some more sequins, but they had like some poinsettias, a couple of pieces of holly, yeah, some holly, and then like some red dots. Actually, it's probably not dots, they're probably holly berries. Let's be real. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. But I thought this would be really kind of this would be kind of fun behind the poinsettia because it looks like a poinsettia, right? So let's try and put those back in. A couple more dots. Let's get those out. And again, I'm only doing one layer of foam tape, but you could do two. If you think that you're going to get carried away, I'm trying not to get too carried away. I think that should be okay in terms of depth. It should be thin enough to work well enough with the level of foam tape here that I've done, or the um, just doing the single layer. But I could, again, if I wanted, I could double this up. If you want to be extra sure, then go ahead and double up. Or do two layers of foam tape. That way, then you've got that extra little bit of dimension, and you can put more in your shaker part, in your shaker, and have it make even more fun noise, which is great. Now, if you didn't want to make a shaker card, you could still do this technique. I do still recommend popping it up. That's how come I thought about doing a shaker card. I recommend popping it up because it does allow kind of the light to show through what looks like stained glass kind of thing, right? So you want that white, you want that extra dimension behind it so that you can see the color for behind your vellum kind of thing. So at the very least, make sure that you are popping it up. You don't have to make a shaker card if you don't want to. Not everybody likes shaker cards. Not everybody wants to have to carry the extra, um, sequins and all of that kind of stuff. And if you don't, good for you, because I have a whack of it because I thought, oh, that's so cute, that's so pretty, that's the best thing now. But now I'm stuck making a ton of shaker cards because I have all this stuff. But if you don't want to make a shaker, you don't have to. But like I said, these would make really great. You could use whatever kind of stamp you have that you can color in. Birthday cakes or cupcakes are some large images that I'm thinking of that would work really great with this. And then do a nice happy birthday sentiment or thinking of you, or maybe you've got a cactus. Maybe you've got a different flower that isn't a poinsettia. Maybe you have a sunflower or something like that. That would be really lovely. So you can see just behind, because it is opaque. You don't see the sparkle of the shaker bits, but you do see the color that is added behind. And I get that really beautiful glow, kind of like of stained glass because of the white that's behind it. Right? So hopefully you guys enjoyed the class today, and pull out your vellum. This is another great way of using vellum, whether you have vellum that is pre-printed or you need to do some stamping and just coloring it on your own. Again, both are perfectly workable options. Similar things that you can do with acetate as well, and maybe I'll do one of those at some point in time. Who knows? Maybe I'll show that in a video. I don't know yet, but basically the techniques are about the same, not much difference. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, and or if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'd be happy to read them and respond. Yeah, please. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. If you do have something else that you'd like to learn or like to see me show, please put that in the comments. I'd like to hear from you about that. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends if you have people that are looking at getting into crafting. Show them this as a good way to maybe not get into it, or to get some really good handy tips on how to utilize the supplies, what's worth investing in maybe and what's not. Yeah, that'd be great. If you enjoy my long form videos, long class form, like doing class length videos, and feel like you would like to support and enjoy it and want to help out or anything like that, my buy me a coffee link will be down in the description. Just click the see more button. And yeah, anything that you'd like to help out with that'd be great. But if not, that's fine too. Thank you so much, you guys. And again, I will see you next week with the next installment of Christmas in July. Thanks so much, everybody, and take care. Bye-bye.